Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Pac-Mountain Pulse, one of the podcasts that we will now be running on Mountain West Connection. My name is Derek Raridon. I've been a contributor for about a year now, taking over mainly Nevada football or helping with Nevada football and basketball coverage, while also running the baseball section with my partner and running mate in the exact same categories, Dominic Gutierrez. You want to give a little bit about yourself as well, my friend?
Yep, I've been with Mountain West Connection for a few years now. Many of you know I've been running the main beat when it comes to Nevada athletics. And then Derek and I have both joined in on taking control of the baseball coverage for the site.
It has been a heck of a time for that. I'll tell you this, I very tiresome nights sometimes. But I enjoy
Yes.
it. I enjoy it. So, but yeah, so welcome to the Pac Mountain Pulse. The basically the skinny on us. We are going to be providing commentary on all things between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. Some weeks, like this week, is just going to be purely Mountain West. Some weeks will be a little bit more Pac-12. It just kind of depends on where the news kind of hits and where everything runs. There's going to be some topics that we don't cover, and if you ever want us to cover them, please feel free to comment on the current episode that's up that week, so that way we can at least maybe mention it or cover it in the future. Or if there's something that we're missing that's a long-term sort of storyline, please feel free to let us know. All of this will be going up on the Mountain West Connection website and the Twitter, which you can see down below on the ticker. And yeah, that's basically about it. So I'm looking forward to this. We did podcasting for our former publication when we were in college called the Nevada Sagebrush, which covers all of the University of Nevada, Reno, and specifically for us, covers the Nevada Wolfpack. So a little bit of experience. Still probably going to be shaky for the first couple episodes, but I'm looking forward to it. So, um, but yeah, so without further ado, you can already tell this is episode 1. Cool. uh, Without further ado, we'll get into our big topic of the week, which is we are currently in the middle of the Mountain West Media Days for football. Lots of conversations have been had, both targeting Gloria Nevarez, the commissioner of the Mountain West, during her like sort of Mountain West State of the Union sort of opener to the media days, as well as different conversations between players and everything of that matter. Some of the big topics that we're going to be covering today are going to be from the State of the Union address that Nevarez gave earlier today, as well as some other like underlying topics if we can get to them today. So, but just kind of run it down. I have a little article pulled up on my phone. One of our guys is actually, or two of our guys are over at Media Days right now. It's Vic Aquino. I want to say it's how you say his last name. I apologize, Vic, if that is not how I pronounce your last name. Please message me. And I want to say it's Jack too, the host of the Hikes Peak podcast.
Mhm.
So I think they're both down there for Media Days right now. So thank you both for covering that. We appreciate that. Um, but yeah, so just to kind of give a little bit of a rundown of what Nevarez said during her State of the Union address, there's been a couple big topics that have been surrounding. The biggest thing is how much revenue they pulled in, and that's like seeing how the product has been, even though it's been a bit of a mixed year. Um, According to Vic, revenue distribution hit $118 million last year, which includes 35 million from football postseason appearances, as well as Boise State's CFP appearance from I think that was like what 2022 or excuse me 2024. My bad.
Mhm.
Um, so big stuff coming from there. Talked about how they had big deals with like CBS, Fox Sports, the CW network as well, which I know that's been a recent one as of late. And then, of course, the Mountain West Plus subscription package, which, if we can get into today, I would like to discuss either today or maybe next week. We'll see. Um, but essentially, the whole vibe of that was let's bet on ourselves, which was a massive point. Sorry if that messed up everything. Um, so it was a big point of that, which was part of the rebuilding, part of the subscription base, which is the only conference subscription platform that you can actually get. The rest usually have some sort of partnership with like ESPN or something of that matter.
Mhm.
Think also like Big Ten Noon on Fox Sports. Um, so a bunch of other stuff there. But another note that she made during everything was a quote about membership. Obviously, realignment happened. Boise State, San Diego State, Utah State, San Diego State, and Fresno State are all in the Pac-12 now, and we have new members in to the Mountain West. And Gloria Nevarez basically alluded to the fact that she seems content with how things are within the Mountain West right now. It's not necessarily that she's not opening the gate to, or keeping the gate closed to other schools say they want to join the Mountain West, but she's not actively searching for um, new members as of now. Now, note, I will fully admit the list of members is pretty good overall. GCU joined last year. For football, we have specifically NIU and North Dakota State. North Dakota State, obviously the big news um, item, I guess, of the last month or so, simply because now they can compete for bowl games, conference games, and everything of that matter. But then you have other schools like UC Davis, Utah Tech for baseball, and I think it's women's soccer, if I remember correctly, and a couple other schools as well that are joining full time. Hawaii is now a full time member as well. So a bunch of different other stuff there. So I guess the first thing that I want to discuss today is I'm gonna ask this with a question: is the Mountain West in a good spot, and should they, if they aren't, should they go for for more members in the future? And I guess I'll pose that to you first, Dom.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to start off, like Nevarez said, obviously you need at least 8 to be an FBS program or an FBS conference at that matter. They're obviously at 10 right now. Expanding, I feel like never hurts. I mean, you see, especially with these Power Four conferences, they're always feels like every year they're always adding a team or two, and you look at the Big Ten, the Big 12. There's not 10 and 12 schools in there anymore, and obviously, the more you get, the more revenue you can bring in, the more just overall experiences you can stretch across the country, and especially with conference realignment now. You see that with the Mountain West, especially. I mean, you have schools like NIU all the way over in Chicago. You obviously have UTEP in Texas. So you're getting a lot of, you're stretching out a little bit past where Mountain West, quote unquote, would exactly be. But for now, I think they're at a good spot. And I think given the fact that this whole conference realignment was kind of sprung on the Mountain West, with all these other teams leaving, I think that they did a good job of rebuilding in a very short time. And granted, fo- basketball, I think, took the biggest hit out of any of the sports, when you look at how things changed. But football wise, I think, like I said, they did well enough, given the tools they had at hand. And obviously, expansion, I feel like, should always be open no matter how many members you have. And that's something they can obviously look into as the next year rolls around. This is going to be the very first season of a new Mountain West conference. So, treat it as that guinea pig season, so to say, see what schools perform well, see which ones don't. And then you can kind of just see where things need to be added, I guess.
Oh no, I agree to a point. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do agree that the current iteration of the Mountain West is not in a bad state, right? Like in
Hmm.
comparison to where it was before to where it is now. Like you said,
Yeah.
basketball is a whole another category of stuff that they have to be cautious of now, because while you do have GCU who competed for a title last year, uh, you have UC Davis who has beaten a number of Mountain West schools throughout the last couple of years, including Nevada, on Nevada's
Hmm.
home turf. You have um, other schools that fill in other spots and everything too, but you are taking a hit this year. Like, there's no doubt about that. And so there needs to be a lot of critical self-analysis after this year. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, there needs to be a conversation had, like, okay, cool. Say in football, NIU, North Dakota State, UTEP's a full-time member obviously, but UTEP, how did they do in comparison to what we've expected before. Which, if we can get into that conversation later about the newcomers and the football, we'll talk about that in a bit. But um, my biggest worry is they get too complacent, simply because I think in the current age of college sports, there's okay, we need to grow more, but are we happy here? And if we're
Mm-hmm.
happy here, let's stay here, which is not a bad idea for certain conferences. When you have the SEC, the Big Ten, Big 12, ACC, especially now, where they have really good brand deals, they have really good television deals and everything too. They're set. And if they want to grow, they can, but they don't need to. I
Mm-hmm.
think both the Mountain West and the Pac 12, obviously, but since we're talking about Mountain West here, the Mountain West needs to be in a we need to get as good as possible in as short of a time as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of flat out say it, like love UTEP, love NIU, love NDSU. The teams that we added are not of the same caliber as the ones that left.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can grow, because NIU and UTEP both had top 100 recruiting classes, obviously not saying too much in that one, but still, that's still a good accomplishment for schools that were leaving their conferences and possibly having coaching changes because of that and everything as well. It's you can't be complacent, especially if you want to actually like compete with the schools that left.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sit here and say that, oh, hey, we're going to be fine with these schools. Yes, NDSU will absolutely be a title contender for years to come if the hype is what it actually is. Um, but just last year alone, sure, Colorado State wasn't too great because they were having the Norvell situation, all that other stuff. But Boise State, Fresno State, SDSU were three of your like what 5 or 6 bowl teams last year.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that much representation, it's not that or representation leaving, it's not that great. So there again, there just needs to be a sense of okay, we're cool now. How can we keep growing? At least in my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with that too, it's hard because you almost have to look at it as it's almost as best as you're going to get because you're not going to get schools. You know, you're not going to get Boise State. You're not going to get another Fresno State. You know, you're some of these programs that had been with the Mountain West for a while, and some of these programs who had long term success with those within that conference. Um, you know, I feel like in any kind of rebuilding sense, whether it's, you know, as a team, as a conference, whatever, you almost have to look at it as you're not exactly trying to replicate what you lost per se. You're just trying to find the pieces that you can that can put you in a similar spot, you know, because well, so many other teams already have moved and are kind of locked in on deals. I feel like now it's, you know, who else are you going to go get that would be considered replaceable enough for a team like Boise State? You know, what other mid-major or team is out there that you could realistically add to the Mountain West? There really just isn't that many unless you're diving into FCS again with someone like NDSU coming over as they did. So then you're looking at South Dakota State or Idaho or whatever you may have you, but at that point, you know, it's not really you know, you're not going to find, like I said, that same level, I guess. And if you do, it's going to come from the teams that you have in there now who now have a chance to grow, I guess, without being in the shadows of some of those top teams. Like now, with Boise State gone, you know, they were kind of the top dog of the Mountain West for quite some time in terms of football. So now you're looking at someone has to replace that. Teams like UNLV have been performing well over the past couple years. You have teams like San Jose State or Hawaii who have shown quite a bit of promise in the conference, but they could never really get over that hump of a team like Boise State or a team like Fresno State or San Diego State. now they have more. It's I don't want to say it's easier, but when some of those top dogs leave, it forces those other teams to have to step up into that role. And I think that's what's going to be almost better for the Mountain West is now you're going to see something different than what we're used to seeing, and you're going to see which teams and which programs put more effort and more commitment financially and community support and everything into getting their program to that kind of state.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I agree. I think to your point, there is no replacing what Boise has done over the last 10 years. There
Mm-hmm.
isn't. Just because of how much money they've dumped into their program, the national recognition that they had for years and years that ultimately ended with, well, not ended, but that has its most recent chapter ending with almost a Heisman winner, which for a mid major is unheard of unless you're playing
Mm-hmm.
college football, the video game. Uh, a national title tournament appearance, which by the way wasn't as if they were like JMU or um, who was the other one that joined in? Was it Tulane?
Tulane.
Yeah, thank you. Um, you're not JMU and Tulane fighting for the final two spots. You were the third seed in the whole damn tournament,
Mm-hmm.
and actually did somewhat decent against Penn State, all things considered. So, like you're never gonna have a Boise State join your conference. You're never, and that's where I think what needs to happen at the same time as evaluating the new people and seeing if there's any other schools that they can add to the conference is also having your big team step up,
Yeah.
right? I fully anticipate. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm the vet. I got a damn flag right here, or yeah, right here. Don't worry about it. But I fully anticipate UNLV being ranked this year, like
Mm-hmm.
no doubt about it. Towards the end of the season, if we were to pick one school from every mid-major conference, it's Boise from the Pac-12 and maybe Texas State, depending on how that quarterback does, because he's a freaking legend apparently right now. Which I've seen them stuff too. He's a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's also um, what's it called? Then it's UNLV from the Mountain West. The only other school that can maybe take it from them is New Mexico, just
Yeah.
because with NDSU there isn't a there isn't enough like sentence or like question enders as much as there are questions. And we need to see them in a full year in the Mountain West, see how they rock. If they're competing for a conference title, God bless, put them in that conversation.
Right.
But if they're, I think their like win loss project or like the over under on their win losses this year is 8.5, to according to FanDuel, which was also put out by so what I think it was Dan Allison today. Sorry, I keep on trying to shout out our dudes. Yeah, Dan Allison put out that story today too about the FanDuel odds. Um, like they're set up for high expectations, and I don't want them to fall under that. And everybody call them a bust in year one. That
Right.
shouldn't be the case. They need to grow. So you're either going to have UNLV, New Mexico, or Dark Horse Hawaii, which is still considered a favorite to win the conference title this year.
Mm-hmm.
In like I think it's like the second or third favorite outside of UNLV. So you need there needs to be a level of expectation of not only the new schools but the old schools, especially the
Right.
ones who are really good. We need to see San Jose really, really pull themselves out of this slump. Same with Air Force, because Air Force used to be a yearly bowl game team, winning at
Mm-hmm.
minimum 6 games.
Yeah.
Last 2 years, they haven't made a bowl game. It was 5 wins. I want to say it was 5 wins 2 years ago, and somewhere between 3 to 5 wins last year. I want to say it was four. Um, but regardless, those are still down years from two programs who have almost always competed for a bowl game.
Yeah.
And I mean, Nevada's been in the slump for the last like 2 years, or not even 4 years, to with the former coach Ken Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So you see growth from them too. Because, and I'll be completely frank with you, we'll talk about the standings, what we predict the standings to be at a different day. But if Nevada ends up anywhere below UTEP or NIU, I don't see them really performing well in the New Mountain West, at least in football. And so this is the litmus test year. You need your new schools. Oh, sorry. You need your new schools to do as good as they can, to get acclimated, to see the new stuff and go from there. And you need your old schools to really, really, hunker down and actually get your stuff together. Because if either one of those two parts of the equation wind up faltering any amount, basically, if not a good amount, the Mountain West will still be considered the third best mid-major conference at the end of the year.
Right. Hmm.
And that's behind American and Pac-12 in that order. So it's it's tricky because like I understand we need to give them time, but there needs to be sudden impact results now.
Right. And I mean, I think
And
that's where that's going to come from, the existing schools. Like that's where you need to see them kind of step up. Like I feel like you can, I don't want to say leeway, but leeway, like for these newer schools, just especially for a school like NDSU coming from the FCS. Um, Obviously, they have shown that they can compete against FBS teams, and they've beaten I don't know how many in their existence. So they are fully capable of competing in that higher division. For them, it's just obviously going to be an adjustment period because they're so used to kind of dominating the FCS level and making that their national championship quite a bit. Um, you know, love that they are coming up to the Mountain West, but obviously you're not going to see them doing that at the FBS level, competing with Alabama and Texas and all these other top ranked schools in the CFP. I
I'll
mean,
tell you
obviously
this
that'd
right
be
now.
great.
I'll tell you this right now. If I ever see NDSU schedule any SEC team outside of like maybe Mississippi State
Hmm.
and they win, I don't care. I'm putting money on them every year. I don't give a damn.
Fair.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's 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 crazy to think that we live in a current age where we're having these conversations now. I think everybody was so dead set on how college sports were and how things like just kind of existed both separately but together at the exact same time.
Hmm.
And now it's hey, now it's time for these schools to fight amongst each other to see who's the best conference, even if they're not playing each other.
Right.
So it's gonna be interesting. But on that note about like national attention and everything, the big thing that stuck out for a lot of people as well was Nevarez's support for the College Sport Protect College Sports Act, which has been a hot topic to say the absolute least. And realistically, it's just not any sort of thing I really wanted to talk to have to discuss and like really weigh the pros and cons of. I am very much a person of the government shouldn't reach in places it shouldn't, and it shouldn't in the places that it should. And now they're in sports, which is a place I really don't think they should be. But in the current day and age, you don't know. So, but the biggest thing that people talked about around the Save College Sports Act was Navarro's support. She voiced it 100% of the way. It was not a statement that was given out over social media, over any um, like Twitter feeds or any of that stuff. It was directly said, which I think is a better way of doing it outside of just what the Big Ten and the SEC did, where it's like, hey, by the way, we all agree. Here's a piece of paper. We don't care. Don't put our faces on it though. Which, yeah. But in the end of things, it's a very hot topic, and I think it does need to be discussed because at the end of the day, it's the future of how college sports will operate. And so, on that note, and I guess I'll take the first stab at this one just to keep it a little bit balanced. Um, is essentially is the College Sport or Save College Sports Act actually going to help mid-major schools? And in my eyes, I never want to go the maybe route. So what I will say is, for the moment, yes, I think the Save College Sports Act is one of those bills that's not necessarily required, but it helps so much more. And it's mainly the main point that I hit on is the transfer rules and all that other stuff and everything. Because to me, I think it's a little bit too easy to be um, affected by the limelight and affected by so many outside figures that don't matter to football as much as they should, or as much as they shouldn't or should, depending on how you feel and everything. And I think that's where I kind of draw that line of like, hey, if you talk about transfers, you talk about this, you talk about, only 5 years to play, 5 seasons, it gives a sense of urgency. And also it also prevents international stars to like 16 years old goes over to play in like France. Then they come to the to America and they go to the NBA and they ball there for a couple of years. Then they realize they're not going to get signed, so they're going to go to college and go play there. That's stupid. I think we all can mutually agree on that point. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of, I think it's just like your opinion of like what you think will actually be a solution to this. And since no one else is coming up with anything because money runs college sports now, it's very, very tricky to not imply the government in this, at least in my opinion. So, but I know Dom and I have talked about this, and you have similar sentiments as well, but also different at the same time.
I mean, I think to an extent, but I think that the state of college athletics in general, and granted, this is just my personal opinion, but has gotten out of hand when it comes to NIL and a lot of these other things. And if the committee and if NCAA themselves aren't going to initiate some of these rules, then somebody needs to. NIL is extremely out of pocket right now. A lot of this financial situations, especially when it comes to conference realignment and all these other things that we're seeing, it's out of hand, and it's going to. I feel like it's going to get to a point where we're only going to see 2, maybe 3 conferences that exist when it comes to football. It's going to be conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten, and everyone else is just either in it somewhere or they're getting lowered. So I think it's a good thing to have some sort of regulation, and I think that especially when we're talking about these are still college students. These are still, granted they're adults, but these are still 18, 19, people who are just kind of starting their lives and people who haven't actually experienced life, I guess, outside of school and outside of sports. And I feel like with the way a lot of this stuff is going, it's hard to make sure that they're into what should be important, which is still learning how to be an adult and function outside of sports, because no matter how far they go in that, that sport's not going to last forever either. So like I said, I think to an extent, when it comes to transfer portal, NIL, revenue distribution, all that sort of litigation, I think it's good to an extent. Like I said with you, Derek, I can agree to that point that it can be among the wrong hands. I can understand why it might be shaky. But for the most part, I think having that ability to just put some sort of control back into college sports, I think that's heavily needed.
Yeah, I've said this time and time again throughout many different things. Um, while it is necessary, I think NIL is phase one of the destruction of college sports as we know it. I think, if not phase two, and transfer portal was phase one. Um, just because it was. Again, I'm a little bit of a history nerd sometimes too, so I'll pull some history stuff everything from time to time. It's sort of like the laissez-faire, like economy system that we had in America for like a good stint in the 1800s, where there was no regulations, there was no stopping monopolies, there was no doing any other stuff. And even though people speculate that it happened in the shadows, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart era of like, I'm gonna pay you underneath the table. Don't worry about it. We'll protect you, and if stuff does come out, we'll take the hit or whatever. I think that even then it's still a little rough, but now that we have a clear cut system where it's, hey, athletes can make money just from playing the game, let alone the sponsorship deals, which is I think what the actual original intent was, is for these athletes to do these appearances and get money from them, not just from the schools. But they're like, again, I wish there wasn't a need for government regulation, but at this point, it
Hmm.
needs it. It needs to be
Yeah.
happening. And the only other option that I see actually helping this and stuff this is a sentiment that I actually share with he's a columnist out here. His name's Chris Murray. I'm gonna bring him up a bunch. He's from Nevada Sportsnet, top dude in Nevada, whatever. But he's an amazing guy. I love him to bits. But um, he mentioned it a bunch where the transfer portal needs to become like the transfer market that we see in international soccer,
Hmm.
where it's, hey, this guy's under contract. He's going to be a $20,000 contract, right? Whether it be basketball or whether it be football. And so here we have this much room to play with. You got to buy his contract and then pay him a new contract so that we can buy out. And I think that um, obviously there would have to be rules in place because, say, similar to the college football video game simulations on like dynasties and road to glories and everything, say Bryce Underwood transfers every year, and say God forbid he goes to a mid-major school, there would have to be boundaries in place because there's no way in hell someone like Nevada could pay a $2 million contract for one player. That's damn near their entire revenue pot for their whole team.
Right.
Like that would take a miracle of stuff to happen. And so you would have to figure out a good mix of that to see like, okay, maybe the first transfer is free, just like how it is in the Protect College Sports Act. You would have to do a bunch of stuff there, so it's a little bit wonky in that regard. But in the end of the day, it's a matter of people recognizing that putting millions of dollars in the hands of 18 to 23-year-olds, maybe 25, depending on how long they stayed during/after COVID, is not a good idea. Like it's not, because everybody has this dream of owning their own, like their best car or a really nice house, or paying for their parents to have a nice house or do whatever. And I like that, I love that stuff, but that shouldn't be the priority when you're 18 years old or 17, even, because some of them come up when they're 17 years old. So like, to your point, Dom, college is meant to be a place where you get a degree. It's
Yeah.
not meant to be a place to just play ball for a couple of years and develop more and then go play in the pros. Obviously, that's what it is in a lot of cases. But like, there can't just necessarily be this whole thing of like, all right, I'm gonna go play 2 years at Nevada, then I'm gonna transfer 1 year to Utah or not Utah to USC. Cool, I'm a junior at USC. I'm gonna go get a bag for 800,000 to $1 million, and I'm gonna get drafted in the fifth round, get a similar contract, and just build over time. College should be, hey, I'm gonna be here for 4 years, get my degree, make sure I have a future ahead of me, and then I go to the professionals and I go make bank over there, and then I have a good outlet for afterwards if need be.
Right.
So we've lost that so much. I think everybody idolizes like LeBron, Kevin Durant, Kobe, and a bunch of these other athletes who just went straight from like high school to the NBA, or these 2 3 year stars who might be ready for the professional scene in football, but might also not pan out well, and
Mm.
it's, we can't there's already a slim chance of going from high school to college, let alone the even slimmer chance of going from college to professional,
Yeah.
whether that be European or not. And so I guess there just needs to be reshaping. And if it takes the College Sports Act to do it, again, I hope it doesn't really truly need to go that far and it gets actually changed here soon. But if it doesn't and it needs to be there, I want college sports to be about college, not about being this money pipeline to where people can stay for 7 years, get tens of millions of dollars in sponsorships and contracts from their athletics department, and then not have to do anything else for it. Like, to me, that's BS.
Right. No, exactly.
So it's a whole thing. Um, Whether or not the Protects College Sports Act will actually uh, go to fruition, we will see. Obviously, on our website, we'll keep up to all that. We'll keep up with all that. Usually, Mike Whitman or a couple of the other, like, I say senior guys, not because they're old, because they've just been here so long. Uh, so no dig to anybody who listens to this and is like, "Oh, he called me a senior. What the hell?" No, but uh, what's it called? To anybody who will, write those stories and everything, we'll keep up with that stuff. So just be on the website, be on our Twitter. It'll all be there.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so now time for some fun content, the non-Gloria Nevarez content. So the big thing that came out today were the All Mountain West preseason teams. We have a list of them right here from the Mountain West. My face probably got a little bit brighter because I am watching a white screen, not a black screen anymore. So, pardon if I look a little different now. But big things that stood out to me. The offensive player of the year, or projected offensive player of the year, is Micah Alihado, who is a sophomore from Hawaii. If I remember correctly, watching the Mountain West reveal show, he is the first sophomore to ever be selected for that award in the preseason, and he's the first one from Hawaii as well, which is I think a really cool thing as well. Some big names that pop up all the time, like Troy Omire, is that how you say? Who's a transfer from, I think it is UNLV to New Mexico. Jaden Thomas, who was one of the best receivers in the Mountain, or running backs in the Mountain West last year. I think his nickname is Jet, which is for good reason. From UNLV's on here. Jack Foster from Nevada, who's going to be heading up the Union. He's here. Cade Keith from New Mexico, who is the other sophomore part of the offensive all conference team, which is, I think, is sick that they have two young kids on here, because you'll actually, if they're not red shirts, there's a really good chance, or no, there's a guaranteed chance that you see them next year. And if they are redshirt sophomores, then there's a possibility they'll either go to the league or they'll transfer to like a higher program. Hopefully it doesn't happen, obviously, but realistic expectation to be here. So that's cool. And then defensively, headed up by people like Jackson Eck, who is the linebacker from New Mexico. He's going to be the defensive player of the year, according to the Mountain West. Other big names, Keenan Wilson Jr. from North Dakota State. Who else is on here? Aiden Walker from Nevada. Elijah Palmer from Hawaii. Jake Pope from UNLV. Dylan LaBarbera, who, I mean, as Nevada reporters, let's be real here, I think we fully expected him to transfer, and he didn't, which says a lot about his character. Same with Foster.
Yeah,
which I liked a lot.
getting him back was a big one for Nevada, and I feel like the Mountain West in general did. I mean, I don't want to say a good job per se, because it's hard as a group of six school to keep that good talent around, but when you have so many of them in one conference who you see were able to keep a lot of those top talents all together, I think that shows a big step towards kind of rebuilding everything, because a lot of these guys, like you said, even someone like Jaden Thomas, granted UNLV is on the better end of some of these group of six schools, but being able to hold on to that instead of him going to a Power 4 conference, that's huge.
Oh, 1,000%. Sorry, excuse me. 1,000%. That's a whole. I mean, damn, I could talk about that for a whole episode.
Yeah.
I think we both talked about that, both like from last season and this season, in the major three sports, for sure. But yeah, that's basically like the big names on the list. The big mention for special teams player of the year is Jackson Williams Jr., who's both punt returner and kick returner of the year, projected from North Dakota State. Apparently last season, I don't know if he was the only player because I was like 95% listening and I think I missed this one. I don't know if he was the only player or one of three players at the FCS level to have a kick return touchdown and a punt return touchdown in the same season. So, dude's a freaking stud. What was his name on the Bears? Dave Hester, whatever his name is,
Mm-hmm.
the like legendary like kickoff returner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like dude's damn near on that level supposedly. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. Um, but yeah, I think just like pure reaction from this, it makes a lot of sense. You know, like I think they hit the ball, they hit the mark really well. They got talent from I think literally every school outside of like maybe a couple because I'm not seeing San Jose State, I'm not seeing UTEP, I'm not seeing NIU, not seeing oh no, I see Air Force now. He's a second teamer. But you have the majority of the conference on this, which I think is really nice because at least shows how widespread the talent is as well, but also how like together it is. Because I mean, just on the offensive team alone, you have from the four major contenders, which is UNLV, New Mexico, Hawaii, and DSU.
Mm-hmm.
You have one, two, three, four. Oh, there's one there's one Air Force guy on the offensive team as well. Excuse me, but four, five, six, seven, eight, nine of your 11 dudes um, are from the four major teams.
Mm-hmm.
And the only two that aren't are Jack Foster from Nevada and Rex Johnson with an E, not an O, from Wyoming. And that's it. Oh, and excuse me, and also Owen Allen from Air Force, excuse me. So there's three members of 12 or whatever that aren't on here, and it's like, or that are not from the major four teams. And again, you expect it. These are the top teams in your conference. You're going to have the top teams be represented. But it's tricky in a way because it's like, I don't know if that's setting unrealistic expectations or if it's just purely 100% cool. We have a lot of trust in these programs. I think it's a mixture of both personally.
I mean, I think you, like we touched at the beginning, like you have to have a trust in them. Like there's no, these are the schools that have to lead the conference now. The other schools that left are gone, so it's kind of a, they don't really have a choice. They need to step up into that role.
No, 100%. And I think it is 100% right with most of these guys too. Like Jet should be on here for sure.
Yeah.
Uh I keep on messing up his name. I need to see it. Like Omire from the transfer from UNLV to New Mexico. Um or I think I'm butchering that. I think it's supposed to be San Jose. It's either UNLV or San Jose to New Mexico. I forget which one. Um but he should be on here. Micah Alejado needs to be on here because that dude's a stud. And realistically speaking, unless you're um, talking about I forget what his name is, but it's the former 5-star who transferred from Auburn to UNLV.
Jackson
Um,
Arnold.
Thank you, Jackson Arnold. Unless you're putting Jackson Arnold on here, then realistically, you're going to have question marks on who should be the quarterback, who should be the wide receiver, who should be the running back. And yeah, so it like you said, if these guys are the ones that step up and truly like it's at least 80% correct on this guy on this document, barring injuries, I think again, like you have to have the faith. And I think this is going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, I understand this. This makes a lot of sense. Let's see how it pans out, but I wouldn't be surprised.
No, exactly.
But yeah, so if you want to view how we all voted over at Mountain West Connection for offensive, defensive, special teams, player of the year, defensive player of the year, all that kind of stuff, feel free to go down to the website. I forget how many people voted overall, but it was a good turnout this year, and I know most of
Hmm.
us do contribute to that, so it's going to be a good time to review how we feel about it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but yeah, so I guess that leaves us with our last point because I do have a few minutes left before I kind of want to cut things and everything. But so I guess the final part is the big news, obviously, realignment. We have three new schools that we mentioned throughout this entire episode: NIU, UTEP, and NDSU. All three will be competing. All three, this is their first year within the Mountain West. One's a FCS superhero in a way. The other two have been struggling in certain ways. It's going to be an interesting year. And so to round everything out, I guess looking at them, which schools do you think, or which school or schools do you think have the best chance at performing to the expectations?
I mean, I think, and a lot of people are going to say this just because of the FCS success, but I mean, NDSU kind of fits. I feel like that greediness of the Mountain West. Everyone was calling for them to, make the move to FBS in general, and then obviously for them to do it with the Mountain West, I felt like was a big deal, and that probably generated the most hype in this whole conference realignment saga between these conferences. So I mean, like almost everyone else, I'm sure that's still following the Mountain West. North Dakota State's going to be the biggest one that they're all paying attention to. Um, like I said, not throwing any shade towards NIU or UTEP. They're just schools who haven't had or haven't shown total success. I mean, I know NIU has had a little bit more as of recent. Just as of right now, they're going through a lot of changes and everything. There's coaching regime and all that. But otherwise, I think that it's still. I'm excited for all of them in general, just because of location. I mean, I'm definitely an old head in terms of if you're in a conference, you should be around that area on the map. I.e. Stanford and Cal in the ACC. It doesn't make sense. So, and granted, you look at the Mountain West now, and you have a team all the way in Illinois. Doesn't make sense. No, not really. But again, it was the cards they were dealt with, and again, I feel like it's just there's some of those schools that they have obviously shown that they have that kind of, like I said, greediness to them, I guess. But I think NDSU obviously is the big headliner that everyone wants to see. But I do think it's nice to have a Texas team finally in the mix. I felt like that was something that was always kind of missing with the Mountain West. And I mean, I know we were looking at Texas State and schools like that before they went and joined the pack, but to get at least one of them, I think that always kind of made sense for the Mountain West.
Well, yeah, 100%. And I think I 100% agree on the sentiment about Texas schools and how like the geolocation of everything is weird. Like again, if it wasn't for the fact that NDSU was such an amazing school, I would be having those conversations with people like, "Hey, like how do you feel about trading Sac State for NDSU?"
Right.
Obviously, I don't want that because NDSU is good. But at the end of the day, like location speaking, Sac State makes so much more sense as a Mountain West school or a Pac-12 school than it does. I think they're in the MAC, which again, love the MAC, love everybody over there, but like location wise, is weird. I also think back to like Washington and Oregon and like UCLA and USC in the Big Ten as well for those like similar comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's like realistically speaking, NDSU should be the darling of this year, 100% of the way. I think, realistically speaking, excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. Wow. We're recording this at night, ladies and gentlemen. But I think realistically speaking, if we were to like go off the FanDuel odds and everything, it's hard because I want UTEP and NIU to do good. I still have a really bad gut feeling that they're going to get like 3 wins or less this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in the end of things, it's a matter of I think NIU will be the other school that could really contend for expectation wise.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they're going to be contending for the conference title this year or any of that stuff, but if their whole goal is to get 4 wins this year, that not necessarily won't be a problem, but it is realistic.
Yeah.
Like if I had to coin flip between NIU and UTEP, I'd probably pick NIU. And it's simply because of like recency bias. They beat Notre Dame. They've been to bowl games recently. And I say recent is in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Um, they've had winning records for a decent bit of time before like the last couple seasons, and there's so much writing on that versus like UTEP. Like they're not bad. They're not a bad school by any means, but it's just one of those moments of they've been on the lower tier. Oh my God, were they Sunbelt or were they Conference USA or MAC? I forget which one.
UTEP.
Yeah, I don't know why my brain is calling Sunbelt, but I don't think that's right. Um, Dom will find it in a sec. But regardless of wherever they were still on like the mid to lower tier stuff too. And arguably, all those conferences I just mentioned are worse than the Mountain West, outside the MAC, who does contend usually. So it's just there needs to be a bit of a revival. And like I alluded to earlier, NIU had a good. NIU did have a really good recruiting class, both transfers and recruits. Overall in the Mountain West,
They were
I
in the
think they
Conference
were
USA,
like,
by the way.
thank you. So Conference USA, but um, both of these programs still had good recruiting classes in both transfers and recruits. Um, both of them were in the top 100. I want to say they were like second and third to UNLV, and if there's one more in between, then they're third and fourth. But it's going to be tricky, and again, we'll get into rank like comparing standings and everything later. But in the end of things, there needs to be good output from both of these schools that we haven't seen before outside of the NIU fluke to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
If we can see consistent uptick in performance while commanding that respect from other teams, whether even if it's close losses, I still think those are improvements for those two schools. And I still think NIU has a better chance of doing it, but if we're being realistic, if those schools get 3, 4, 5 wins, realistically 4 and 5 wins would be better. Then I'm happy. I'm 100% happy with how they've joined the Mountain West, because that's going to take care of, like, if they continue to grow at the same level, one of them will become like Fresno State, mid to like mid good tier of schools that can contend for a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
One will fill in the role of Colorado State, which had a down year last year, but still fill up pretty well. And then you have the other ones that kind of fill in the spots here and there, while the mainstay returning schools fight for that top spot where Boise was.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a case of how well their transfers do and how well they can develop their freshmen, their sophomores, redshirt freshmen, all of them, and if they can keep them to stay, so that way they know the system and they can just go from there.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, I'm looking forward to it. I hope the Huskies, the Miners, the Bison, any school that joins the Mountain West, I want them to do good. There's still going to be a little fan of me that says go Wolfpack whenever we play them, or I say they play them. Excuse me. But in the end of the day, like, I just want the Mountain West to be that perennial power, and that starts from the bottom up.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
But yeah, so all right, well, that's about it for all of our talking points today. Pretty good episode in my opinion. I like that. But yeah, so thank you all so very much for listening to us rant for like 50 minutes almost. Please be sure to follow us on Mountain West Connection Twitter. It's on the bottom right here, but it's at MWC Connection on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it. And then all the episodes will be up on our website, which is about to be on the bottom ticker right now. www.Mountain West Conference Connection. Obviously, Mountain West Connection. There it is, right there. Mountain West Connection is abbreviated, or Mountain West Conference is abbreviated. But follow us on follow our content on there. I know Dom's been doing a bunch of stuff covering position reviews for Nevada Wolfpack. We've had a bunch of them for all the different schools, both Mountain West and Pac-12 in different stratospheres. for the past couple weeks to a month or so, and there's just gonna be more content there as well. So, but yeah, so thank you so very much for watching us ramble.
Yeah.
We hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you again next episode. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.